we can do
Yeah,
a
we can
little intro
start.
stuff. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Tiffany Sizemore. I'm one of the facilitators of this workshop, and my co-facilitator will introduce himself in a moment, as well as our panelists. Just a few introductory things. First of all, we have a table full of information about the Coalition Against Death by Incarceration over on this table. Please engage with the table when this is over, not now, if you haven't already. Secondly, I just want to give you a little bit of roadmap of how we're going to move today. We're going to do some introductions, give you some introductory information, allow our panelists to introduce themselves for approximately 5 minutes each, and then we'll move into some prepared questions that we have for them, and then there will be plenty of time at the end for questions from the audience. So jot down your questions or save your questions for the end, but we're going to definitely provide time for Q&A with our panelists. The last sort of announcement thing I wanted to make, and I'll make it again at the end, tomorrow we are going to have a meet and greet with our panelists at the Thelma Lovett YMCA in the Hill District from 12:30 to 2:30. We'll have some refreshments there. All of our panelists will be there. So if this workshop sort of gets you flowing, gets you interested in CADB or the movement to end death by incarceration, please join us tomorrow afternoon at the Y. This workshop is going to be video recorded, but it shouldn't be recording you all particularly. It's recording us up here. The final thing, I just wanted to acknowledge and say thank you to the families of lifers that we have here in the room today. Thank you for coming. It's an honor to have you present, and I wanted to say also if we could have a moment of silence for some lifers across the state recently that we've lost. So if everybody can just have a moment of silence in remembrance of those who have been killed by the state through death by incarceration. Thank you to each of you for coming today. And I'll turn the panel over, the workshop over to my co-facilitator, Yusef.
My name is Yusef Jones. I'm the junior co-facilitator. I am in training. And I'm going to give you an overview of life sentences in the state of Pennsylvania. In the early 1900s, the legislature, they passed laws that govern homicides in the state of Pennsylvania, and they had basically two categories: first and second degree murder. They had involuntary and voluntary manslaughter as well. Originally, lifers, when they would go enter into the prison, they either commuted out or they died inside the prison. Those were the only two ways that they could get out of prison unless they got their case overturned. Theoretically, most of the men who got out, and there was hordes of them who got out, their sentence was commuted. But at this time, this doesn't just apply to people who are serving homicide offenses. It applies for all people that are sentenced to prison. There was no parole. If you got a sentence, it was a flat sentence. It was 10 years, you had to serve 10 years. To get out sooner than that, you had to apply for commutation, and they would grant commutation at some point. This was a very corrupt process, so people of means could just pay their way out. And at some point, what they did is they revisited the whole crime structure, and they introduced parole. In the discussion for parole, life sentences became an issue. They did not want to have the parole system under the governor because of the corruption. They thought that they would make parole eligibility through the Superior Court. The Superior Court had statewide jurisdiction and could rule on every case. Ultimately, all of that panned out, and they ended up creating a separate entity for the Department of Parole and Probation. in that discussion, they were talking about how life sentences would be eligible for parole. The statute says that persons sentenced to life were not eligible to be considered. And the reason that they were not eligible to be considered because their cases had to be heard automatically by the Supreme Court. And it was just through misadventure when they finally passed the parole eligibility statute, they left lifers out. They had intended to include them, but because the way the statute was structured and what court had what jurisdiction, the Superior Court didn't have jurisdiction over life sentences. Only the Supreme Court did. And so in their discussion, they picked it up from the Superior Court and just never carried it over to include life sentences for, include parole eligibility for people who were sentenced to life. And that's the only reason why in the original design, people who had sentences to life, or what we call death by incarceration, were not eligible to make parole. And so where we at now, there's an organization, coalition, CABI, the Coalition to Abolish Death by Incarceration. In Pennsylvania, when you sentenced to life, you die. And so rather than talk about it in terms of life behind bars, we frame it differently and say, you're going to die. They sentence you to a place to die. And we come up with the term death by incarceration. There's a coalition, CABI, and this is a coalition of 4 convening organizations, Fight for Lifers, Right to Redemption, and
Incarcerate.
So what's the one with
Incarcerate PA.
and I can't think of it right now. But it's 4 different organizations that came together and put together this coalition. And so as a coalition, we have primarily a singular issue. And that issue is to ensure that people incarcerated with life sentences are at least given an opportunity to present themselves and establish that they're no longer a threat to society. From our perspective, the only thing government has a mandate to do is our protection. Once a person who served any amount of time in prison is no longer a threat to our safety, then the government literally has no interest in keeping them in prison. And what we've failed to do as a community is to hold them accountable and let that be the standard. They've actually shifted into prisons now being enterprises from which they generate profits. And because it has that interest, they continue to just incarcerate people at the highest rates. We have, I think, roughly 5,000 people, a little more, serving life sentences in Pennsylvania now. And the statistics are such that they got like maybe almost 200 of them that are over 70 years old. And there's absolutely no reason for that to happen. And so what we're doing is charting a course for how do we hold our legislators accountable and change it. If we look across the planet, most countries have parole eligibility for people who are convicted of offenses where they've taken another life. And we are one of the only countries that don't do that. And what we have on the panel today is several juvenile lifers. Children convicted between the ages of anywhere from 14 and 17 and sent to prison to die. And it's only as a result of pressures from all around the world, since we're supposed to be in the leadership of the world, that came to bear, that started a process that if you were a juvenile, I think if you were juvenile and mentally challenged, they couldn't give you the death penalty. And they moved up the ladder until finally they got to the point that they just said, we cannot send our children to jail to die when they're definitely redeemable. We can't say that people who are not fully cognitively developed are hardened criminals, and therefore society's interest is to lock them away until they die. And so that's where we are today. And there are any number of bills that have been introduced that's chipping away at that. And through our interaction, we'll go back and forth. I don't want to be too long-winded, as I tend to be. And I want to now have each of the gentlemen here and young lady introduce themselves and give a brief statement. And probably tell you a little bit more about their story.
Well, hello. My name is Paulette, and it's an honor to be here and a privilege. I can say that I am truly, truly blessed. I went to jail when I was 16 years old. I did it 40 years. I was recently released last year of April Fool's Day. How about that? And I can say that by the grace of God I made it through, because it was a whole lot of trials and tribulations that I had to go through. However, I made it through. I'm here today. And I am very grateful that the laws are changing, because there is so many people that I know for a fact should be afforded the same opportunity, and they weren't juveniles. They have changed their lives. They don't do the same things they used to do. They don't think the same way they used to think. And they're getting old, they're getting sick, and they're dying. And there has been several deaths since I have been incarcerated that I can witness to. You know, one was Sharon Wiggins. She was our trooper, she was our pioneer, and she passed away with health issues due to the lack of medical attention. However, she was one of the juveniles that would have been one of the first women outside of myself to be free on this juvenile change thing. I will say a little bit about my case. My mother, when I was 14, she had an aneurysm, and it took her death. At 15, she died. My father was having some financial problems, and unfortunately, we had to remove, me and my younger siblings had to remove from the house and went to foster care. My dad finally got himself together maybe a year later, brought us back, and he met this woman that had mental illness. And she was very, very nice at the beginning. She had a son, he was a teenager as well. And she was only supposed to stay there for 2 to 3 weeks, but 2 to 3 weeks went 2 to 3 months. She became very, very abusive, verbally, emotionally, mentally, and physically. She cut me with a carpet razor, was trying to cut my throat, and this is what led me into jail. For me to defend, I had to defend myself, so I did what I knew what was best. Her son got involved. I grabbed a knife. I poked him. Unfortunately, he died. That was not my intention. And I went to jail. But before that, I have to back up. I'm in an older man because I was trying to get out of that situation with this woman that was in our house that was abusing me. And I got pregnant. He was a good man for the most part. And he stayed in me and my son's life until my son was 7 years old. And my son had moved to New York then with my dad after all this happened. I want y'all to keep up with me, I know. And at the age of 18, my son was shot and killed. Excuse me. It was very, very devastating. Unfortunately, they never found out who killed my son. But the two guys that was with him the night that they were selling drugs, there was an unmarked police car, and they were shooting too. So my family had to task force. We had investigated, and but we never came to. We never resolved. Anyway, so I've been on both sides of the story, of the both sides. I know what it is to lose a child. I know what it is to be incarcerated for taking a life, and I never really, even though this lady really was trying to hurt me really badly, I never understood her pain until I lost my son. I mean, this will be something that I'll have to deal with forever. But my main thing now is that I keep myself focused, busy. Try to reach out to somebody else and don't have to go. I wouldn't want to have them go through the same situation that I've been through. Try to advocate for the sisters that I left behind and the brothers that I know deserve to be out here. So this is what my purpose is now. Yes, was there racism going on where I was at in Muncie and in Cambridge? Absolutely yes. Is it still going on? Absolutely yes. And so my heart goes out to them, and to all the sisters and wives and mothers and whatever that has someone that's incarcerated. I will say this: do not stop fighting for your people. And I was determined to speak things into existence, and today I stand here to tell you it has come to light. And by the grace of God, I'm here.
Hello, my name is Vincent Sharif Boyd. I'm
Sorry,
also.
could you stand?
You want me to stand, sir? Boom, boom. All right. Boom. My name is Vincent Sharif Boyd. I'm in the same category. I went to jail when I was 16 years old. I just got out February of last year at the age of 52. I'm an individual that went in. I could take you all the way back to the school system, how they just pushed me away, not being able to read or write. So I was illiterate going into this world of incarceration at the age of 16. Granted, I can read now. Granted, I can write now. And granted, it's a blessing to be free and here in front of y'all. But to speak about life in general, that's my conversation. I can speak about doing time, I can speak about prison, but my conversation is about humanity. When we speak about humanity, we speak about this whole form of racism. You know what I mean? I started from the bottom. Now I'm here with two beautiful people. When you count it up, it's 106 years in front of you right here, not counting his 30 and some change. So if you put it together, that's how far along we was away from our families. I was fortunate to have a mother and father, but struggling in life, you only could do but so much with the kids that they had. So I'm here to present that I'm a grown man looking for change. Death by incarceration is real. I left many men behind. I left many sisters behind. And my mission right now is to help them help themselves. To see people sitting out here that want to help us with this fight, I am thankful for that. But we sit here and hold these conversations and we go home and forget them. We look at this number here, it's supposed to hold 75 plus, they strong numbers. So if we do what we got to do, if we keep listening to what we're listening to, and we keep this movement real, we don't know what we'll end up with. I was talking with Al today on the way here, and I had broke down some things. When we went to jail, it was 7 prisons. 7. 1 woman's. It's 28 and counting. Those numbers is unbelievable. So when we look at numbers like that, and what can we do about it, there's plenty we can do about it. But we small fries in this conversation. But we're not small fries if we go to our legislator and tell them what's broke and what's not broke, And I was telling him, these things was built for people coming out of the military. They needed jobs. So how did they get them? Armies is running our prisons. Armies is running our prisons. Racism exists. I said the army, so racism exists in all them categories: the education, the military, the police force, and on and on. But little people like us can stop it. These conversations that we hold in can stop it. But we gotta leave these places to meet bigger people and hold better conversations. Because if we don't, it just be some smoke that we blew. So I can continue going on. I'm free, I'm happy, I'm about helping and not hurting. Thank y'all.
Hello everybody, my name is Troy David.
Hey, Troy.
I'm excited to be here. 'Cause I love to run my mouth and talk. For years I've been reading books in prison. I said, I can't wait to get out and just talk. I'm not angry, I'm not bitter, and if some people are anywhere, then, you know, I have a story to tell. Okay, I believe over there, there's articles and things that I had written while in prison and since I've been out. So I won't go all the way into my story, but I would say that I grew up in Philadelphia. I grew up with a mother and father, and everybody's situation is different. I had my mom, I had my dad. I grew up in a middle class neighborhood. I had a scholarship to go to University of Kentucky. I was the second fastest in Philadelphia. I was on my way to the Air Force. I was working, I had 2 jobs. They had to tell me you had too many jobs, it's interfering with school. So my message is always that it can happen to anybody. Anybody. You know, my mother would tell you, not my boy, not Troy. Troy, So I ended up getting involved, I'll just make it real quick. I ended up getting involved with the robbery. There's a few guys in my neighborhood who I kind of looked up to, and I was the dorky kind of guy. I always tell a story. I was the kind of guy in the party against the wall like this, holding up the wall, afraid to ask the girls for dance. So, but the guys who I thought were cool, were thorough, these are the guys that dress real good. I wanted to hang out with these guys, but unfortunately, these were the bad guys. So anyway, I ended up getting in the car with a couple of these guys at night. So the one individual who I looked up to, he said, Troy, we're going to go around, we're going to go joyride, we're going to look for some girls, we're going to look for some chicks. I'm like, all right. So after we drive around for 5 to 10 or 15 minutes, no chicks. So the next thing you know, one of the individuals in the car said, we're going to get some money. So I knew what that meant. That meant they're going to rob, they're going to do something, they're going to take, they're going to hurt somebody, whatever. I went out the car. So they began to say, don't be a punk, don't be a pussy, Troy, and kept going on and on. Now I fought against it for a few minutes, but I started thinking, I said, man, if I do this, they gonna look up, I'm gonna be cool like them. Now, like I tell you, I had a family, we went vacations every year, beautiful home. No complaints about my childhood. There was no reason for me to do anything except the low self-esteem that I had within myself. So anyway, I get involved, they tell me what to do, they say, hey, this guy's gonna come out the store. They hand me a gun. I've never seen a gun in my life. I put the gun in my hand. I didn't check to see if the gun had bullets. So I walk up to this guy, as he said, I put a gun to his side. I'm shaking. I don't search him. I don't know what to do. He's got a bag under his arm. I grab the bag. He doesn't let it go, so I shut the gun. So as I'm turning to run away, something said turn around. So as I turn around, he was pulling out a gun. So I don't shoot him. I shoot at the ground. I don't know why I shot at the ground. I always tell people I never had that calculating killer in me. I just shot at the ground, so that was to hold him off. So I took off running up the street. He takes off tracing me. He should have been the track star. He was, I'm telling you, he was, so he's shooting at me, so I'm running, money flying in the air, I'm throwing up, I'm more afraid than he is, I'm running and trying dodging. He's getting close, so I shoot in the air. And it's a bystander gets hit. Long story short, I do 33 years. I got out what is the date, Big? 19?
20.
Yesterday was my 7th month out of prison. After 33 years. So, but while in prison, the biggest thing, and I'm sure these questions going to come up, so I won't be long, is adjustment. You know, I was a kid. I'd never been to prison. When I went to the police station, I said, Jesus Christ, he doesn't even have a record. He never did anything. Never did anything. So I ended up going in prison, and it was a little bit different when I went in, because back then, in the 80s, I went in 84, the inmates were different. Every cell you went to, there were books. So when I went in, guys were handing me books, learn your black history, learn this. So I learned black history, I learned European history, I learned Russian history, I learned, so I started reading, worked in the library for 10 years, different things like, got a bachelor's degree, all those things. But it was painful. So yes, there's a lot of, so we're here, I'm here to represent. I want people to know in the world. So it's important for me while I'm out here, while we're out here to do the right thing. Because I said, I'm letting you guys got to do the right thing in here. I know it's hard because I'm going out here to represent you. I'm going out here to show people, guess what? That everybody, you can change. Mm-hmm. You can change. Mm-hmm. It's difficult, it is hard in here because, see, even though the law changed, doesn't mean everybody is not going to be affected by that law, because when you get in there, it's rough. Sometimes you have to defend yourself. There's things that you may just have to do that you don't want to do. If you don't, you may not make it out alive. So we're here to represent and say, you know what, society, people can change. We can change. People can do better. So like I said, I won't go all the way in, but any questions when everybody asks, I'm sure you're going to ask. I'm happy to be out. I'm happy to see people. I love people. I love life. We started an organization called Boys to Men. It's a mentoring organization, and I love life, and I'm just thankful to be here. Thank you.
So the first question is for the panel, and not every question will be answered by every panelist, but as folks want to jump in, can you just talk about your adjustment when you first went into prison as a teenager? How was your experience different, especially now looking back with adult eyes, as a 16 or 17-year-old going into a state prison? How was that adjustment?
Well, for me, I use the term that I was one of the guys that have men wearing underwear in the shower now. Because coming through, it was boy, you asshole naked. You know what I mean? That was the world. You had to fight up. That was it. So through my years, I fell in 1981. So when I hit Camp Hill, and the team that hit Camp Hill right after me, all of us had our underwear on. When I say team, I'm talking about the youth that followed us in 81. All of us from the Youth Study Center wore underwear in the shower. So we made a trend. I say that, but did it exist from us? It's more men wearing underwear in the shower than it was before we got there. So change did happen. And when I speak like that, the world of prisons, like he said, has changed. I was in a hole, and I used to ask people how to spell it, how to spell that, and then a dictionary came down to me from an older fella. He said, take your time, man, you'll find the Sharif. You know what I mean? And I stopped hollering out that door. But I wasn't afraid to ask, like I wouldn't be afraid to ask now. If I was reading a sentence, Boogaloo Johnson, what's that word? Cat. And I follow on and finish it. So I'm not ashamed of not knowing how to say a word. But that was a big change in me seeing the penitentiary. I mean, you still had to fight, you understand what I'm saying? When I say, I don't want to be cussing, fuck. Fight or fuck, you understand what I'm saying? That was reality, and the last of the reality of going in there, because it ain't like that no more. But the world of prisons was very different when I first went in.
Well, when I first went in prison, when I went to Muncie, first I went to House of Correction, which is no longer House of Correction anymore. It's they call it something else now. I don't know what it's called. But however, it was a playground. It really was. But I was still oblivious to what was going on because my mind was not there. But I seen people act like they was at home. They was laying on the floor in the day room, had the music blasting through. And I was like, this can't be real. But I still was going through what I was going through. It took me at least about 3 months for me to actually realize that you in jail and you ain't going home no time soon. Never once did I ever think I wasn't ever going home. Mm-hmm. That I would not entertain. But I was like, you in jail, And then when they took me to Muncie, the ride was so long. I said, are they going to take me to the woods and kill me? Because I had no idea, because I went back all the way back into slavery day, where they take you in the woods and lynch you. I didn't know. I'm only 16. I'm only a kid. I don't know what they expect. Never been in jail. Never had a record like him. You know what I'm saying? Came from a good family. I just lost my mother at an early age, and things just went haywire. However, so I'm getting there. I was like, it's taking a long time to get here. What and where are they taking me? So finally we get there. I get to Muncie, and it was like a college campus. But the people were so rude. The officers were so nasty. They let you know this is jail, you know, when you came through there. And as the years went by, things started getting a little more flexible. We was getting guards that didn't care what you did and all that kind of carrying on. And before I went to Cambridge, after doing 37 years in Muncie, I went to Cambridge. Muncie was a horror house, okay? People were dying. Everybody was coming up that the diagnosis and prognosis was everybody getting cancer. I was like, is it environmental? What the hell is going on? What are they trying to do to us now? You know what I mean? 20, 30, 35, 36 years later, were they trying to come up with something else to get rid of us? You know what I'm saying? I didn't know what to think. So I asked them to transfer me to Cambridge Spring because I didn't know what was going on. So I go to Cambridge Spring. Yeah, there was some deaths, but not like it was in Muncie. I didn't understand that. You know, you got people dying, people wanting to kill themselves, people on medications, they giving them the wrong medications. You know, they walking around, they shaking, they, you know what I mean, can't put their tongue in their mouth. It just was horrible. I couldn't take it. So I just observe all this kind of stuff. And I question it, and I still question a lot of things because there's a lot of people that was there that 2 years later they did. I mean, you was just running around the track with me. You was just talking to me. You was just out in the yard. You know what I'm saying? Helping with the games and all that. And you did today? How did that happen like that? So I still question a lot of things that went on. I was never the type of person that I want to be in the in crowd. Always did things on my own. You know what I mean? If it was somebody positive, had something to tell me, I would take that advice and use it to my advantage. But I went to school. I got involved in programs. I went to groups. You know, I had therapy. Of course, I had therapy. And to this day, I still have therapy because of my going through what I had to go through with my son. Being locked up to me losing my child didn't hurt me like it hurt me when I lost my child. So to this day, I still go through therapy for that, and I'll probably be going through it for maybe the rest of my life. But anyway, it was a you know, a change. I had to adjust. It was a big adjustment. You know, I matured. I learned some things. I know things that I know now that will keep me from going to that process. I know if something never came that way for me now, I know there's other options. You know, and you live and you learn. So when I went to Cambridge, it was a difference for me, and I got free from Cambridge. I connect with some people there and some organizations, Human Rights Collision, the Church of the Overcomers. All of them was big supporters of me. The Church of the Enon Baptist Church, all of them, you know, and the Beulah Baptist Church, all of them was very instrumental to me in my life. They was with me, besides my family, the whole time. So, you know.
Troy, let me just, in addition to the adjustment question, you mentioned that you got a bachelor's degree in prison. So when you went in, you hadn't graduated from high school, you were able to graduate, get your degree. Did that, can you just talk a little bit about the education program, and does that still exist?
Well, I went in 1984. And then you go from the county jail to the state jail. So I went to SCI, Dallas State Correctional Institution in Dallas, PA. So I was like 2.5 hours away. But anyway, I had always been a guy that liked the books in school. So when I went in, my mother and my dad was like, look, finish your education. So I went and got a GED. I got the GED. And then they had electrical classes where you could learn residential wiring and I just wanted to kind of stay in tune with life and not prison. So the only way I can do that is I felt like I was in school. That was the only thing that I could see that was similar to where I came from. So I went to school. You know, even though there was other things, I did my sports and exercise, but I wanted to go to school. But at the, so they had Pell Grants at that time. And a lot of people don't know this. It was the Clintons that did away with the Pell Grants in the 1990s, you know. But a lot of things that they did, but that's another story. But, and then Obama brought them back. But anyway, what happened with me, so I kind of, it took me like 15, 20 years to get the bachelor's degree because I didn't have the money. So one of the things, if you have a life sentence, like say if you had 5 years in prison, they had a program where you could take college courses from maybe sometimes Ohio State, whatever institution, whatever college that the institution dealt with. And if you didn't have a life sentence, you could pay $50 a credit, which is, I mean, great.
Yeah.
You know, people would love that, you know. People wouldn't be in debt today from student finance. But if you had a life sentence, you had to pay $150 a credit. So I didn't have $150. So what I did was begged my family, worked in the institution. I only made $70 a month. This was big time pay in prison. So no. So what they're trying to do now, they were trying to, under Obama, to kind of bring back the Pell Grants a little bit. But a lot of that stuff doesn't exist. And the population has changed. Like they said, you go in there now, you can't tell if somebody has 2 life sentences at 20 to 40 on a basketball court and having a good old time. You know, so it's the older generation like us in there trying to tell some of the younger people what to do. Like, dude, you're gonna die in here. Like, you're 19, you're gonna die. Like, life means life in Pennsylvania.
Exactly.
You know, so that's why we're so blessed, because we were set to die. We were set to die. And so I'm out here, and I always tell my sweetheart Marsha, I said, nothing bothers me. We have a argument. I said, I don't care. Not that I don't care about her, but I'm like, yes, I don't care. I'm happy. That's all. You know, whatever. You know, but so, yeah, but some of those things have changed. And as far as the adjustment with me, it was rough because there's so many situations. But I'll give you one situation. When I got out at 17, I went to the Youth Study Center. So I had never been in a police car or anything, so it was like a shock. So I go to the Youth Study Center that night, so they had spaghetti and meatballs, and they give you apple pies. So I'm not a hard and tough guy. I really can't fight or any of that, but I'm in there with guys like, lions. Guy punched me in the nose and takes my spaghetti and meatballs, you know? And I'm sitting there like not knowing what to do. Give me your pie. You know, so things like that, you know, it was even like he said, it was certain things, like you either defend yourself or the money that your mother and father is sending you, you're not going to be able to spend it. You know, and then if you win the fight, the staff said, you were wrong. You did that wrong. So that goes on your record. And it might have happened in 1980s, guess what? When did they bring it up? After parole,
Every time
25, 30 years later. Well, in 1981, you punched the guy in the nose because he took your spaghetti. Why'd you do that?
Yeah.
I mean, that's just how it is, too. So
Yeah.
that is some of the stuff that the people see maybe as some of the policies, they may see that as like, that's racist when, you know, things like that. That's the biggest thing for me, but, yeah.
So that sort of, go ahead, Paulette.
I said, that is so true, because they will throw things up to you that happened like 20 years ago. And, you know, it's why are you even bringing that up? It's done and over with. But they do that. And it basically was geared on us. Anything we tried to do to better ourselves, they didn't see that. But do one thing wrong, and they're talking about for the rest of the day till you leave, or if you leave. It was crazy.
So that sort of segues into the next questions about how did you see racism play out in your daily prison experience? What are some examples of things that you saw, different treatment between prisoners, different treatment from guards? Like, can you just talk a little bit about what you saw?
I'll take you to the Huntington days. From 1983, when I can take you to the Huntington days. I went to Huntington June 12th, 1983 at the age of 18. They had bags lined up for us. I cried because I was scared when I seen that castle. I had dudes 30 and probably older crying, you know. But when we got in that prison, hit them castle gates, and they closed it behind us, the first thing they said is, y'all niggas ain't downgraded for no more. I start crying right there. And the guys in the hole telling you, man, go out, don't let these people shake you up and down. But I was scared to death. They had bags with our names on them. They
Body bags, you mean?
No, bags. You was naked, so bags, you had to put your stuff in. But when they took it, they made us take cellies. And when we walked out there, it's like we walked through a gauntlet.
What's
a
a
gauntlet. Living with another man. Oh, excuse me, y'all don't know what that is. Living with another person, a cellie. You know, and they made us take them. So my first day there, I will never forget it because I was being challenged on the person asking me my name. All I'm thinking about is protecting me. And what's your name, what's your name, what's your name? So scared on all levels, staff and the convicts. So all I thought as being aggressive, being prepared to protect myself. Them guards, they hated us. They hated us from the door. Huntington again. Did racism exist? Blacks ate on one side, whites ate on another side. Did racism exist? Blacks take a shower on one side, whites take a shower on the other side. So the reality of racism in prisons was live and well. How long did it take me to understand? Not long. How long it took me to deal with it? Fast. Because when you went to the hole up there, they kicked your ass. One thing about it though, that racism thing, they respected you as a man. But when you got out of line, it showed you a whole different side of you. You're a gentleman, you sir, you all that with that racism. But as soon as you say something out of line, you say something wrong towards them, they show that other side. So when we speak about that, we speak about the conditions, it didn't change tremendously though. You know what I mean? They cover their tattoos now. They talk to you presentably now. But on that dark side of it, it's very, very ugly. He says something about education. It don't exist too much in there if you don't teach yourself. These days now, if you don't teach yourself, it took me 21 years to get my GED. But I was one of them guys that faked it to make it. If you told me a story, I listened. He told me Michael Jordan had 23, a girl got stabbed, somebody got shot. When I passed the paper to you, Michael Jordan had 23, a girl got stabbed. They didn't know I couldn't read or write, but those who did know tried to send me to school. But I ignored it for a long time. So the racism is real.
Paulette, do you have any? I think sometimes you hear about different experiences with men's prisons than women's prisons. Was it just a part of your existence or a daily part of your life, or how did it play out for you?
You talking about racism? Oh yeah, it was a lot of racism in there. Like, well, of course, you know, the black women. Of course, the black women. You know, you got a lot of sisters in there. We got some sisters that's some rowdy sisters. Let's keep it 100. And they want you to know, I will beat you down. And that's what they did. And any time, and you had some Caucasian women too that can throw down too. They came in there and let you know, I don't care, I'll beat you down too. We just going to have to prove it. But there was a difference in how the guards would treat some of the white women and some of the black women. You know, it was always a difference there. And you know, and they made that known. A lot of them made that known. And that caused a lot of conflict against us. Because, you know, we're all in here together, so we should all be treated right. And nobody didn't want to see that. So we knew the color of our skin was a sin. So we had to make the best decisions that we had to make to keep from them taking us to a hole. And them guards would beat the heck out of you too. I've seen a guard put his foot in a girl's chest, wrestle her to the ground, and cuffed her from the back. I witnessed all of that. And this was a male guard. You know, the woman guard came a little later, but you gonna beat on a woman like that? And a lot of people was feeling some type of way about that. that wanted to attack these guards for doing that, but we knew the consequences. So what we do, we got grievance. We wrote grievance. We wrote to Harrisburg, wherever we had to write. Did it fall on all deaf ears? No, it did not. Some people did. But then after a while, they found the reasons to cover it up. They had this one saying that and that one saying that. Of course, they're going to cover up for each other. But we grieved them. We called to anybody we could call to tell them to call to Harrisburg and let them know what's going on up here. But yes, we had to go through that. Did they ever beat me up? I didn't put myself in that situation because I knew better. I had sense enough to know better. But if they did something to me, I called home. I grieved them. I told them get a lawyer to call up here. And that kept them off of my ass. Bottom line.
So regardless of sentence, people who received death by incarceration, as you've all talked about, see value and purpose in their lives. What was that moment for you, especially going in as a young person, where you decided that you had to make the most of this sentence regardless, that you were going to get move on with your life in a positive way, regardless of the state's essentially death sentence to you?
For me, I would say probably like 12 years into the sentence. I remember, how you have one, like you're asking a question, like one of those moments. For me, it was always hard because I never seen the victim. I was running away and I shot in the air. So to be honest, it took me years to understand that somebody died. So the first 12 years I was crying and boo-hooing to my mom and to my dad until my mother said one day, listen, I didn't put you in there. I didn't tell you to go out here and do that. When you grow up, you give me a phone call. So it was hard. So that 12th year, I guess I began to mature a little bit more. And one day I started thinking, I said, man, how would my mother feel had it been me? Because I'm a mama's, I'm 51, but I'm still a mama's boy. I love my mother. We all love our parents, but I love my mother. So I know she loves me to this day. We had Thanksgiving. She was just in tears, after 30-something years, first Thanksgiving. But I said, she would just be devastated. So I had to I still don't know the face. I had to give this individual a face. But that helped me because that allowed me to forgive myself a little bit more because I know I didn't mean to do it. Although I tell young people all the time, just because you didn't mean to do it don't mean there's no consequences. Right. It's naturally attached to what we do. So I had to actually develop a picture in my mind of this person who I've never seen and say that somebody died. In my case, I'm not talking about anybody else's case. This is what I had to do. So when I did that, that kind of allowed me to move on and really get that drive, as she said, because people say, I know it was tough that you thought you were never going to get out. Those of us who survive all these years, we always know we're going to get out. It's just something in you that tells you you're going to get out one day. And this is why we take care of yourself. You run the yard, you work out, you read books, you try to stay focused. So that was my point. Like after 12 years, it took that long because the first 12 years I was really crying and whining, sad. I was angry at the system, the district attorney, rightly so, but all my blame and energy was there instead of being somewhere else.
A question just occurred to me.
Don't forget to raise your voice.
A question just occurred to me, and I'm wondering, I've met quite a few people who have successfully transitioned back into society. I don't hear bitterness. I don't hear a sense of blaming other people. In your case, why is that?
Well, who you gonna blame? I mean, once you get to understand yourself, see, that's what play a hell of a role in these conversations. Once you get to understand who you are and how you feel about life and appreciating you, it took time. He spoke about being educated. I was illiterate, so it took me a whole lot of turning to get where I'm at. But I was ignorant to a lot of things. But sitting here telling you right now, talking to you about that today, I learned to love me. I learned to understand the importance of God. We sit here and we talk about God, but I wake up every morning and I go to sleep every night thanking Him. You understand what I'm saying? So I walk with him now. So when you say, who am I angry at? Nobody. Nobody owed me nothing. Just give me an opportunity to get it. You know, if you give me a job, I'm going to be your best employee. The next man going to hate me for being his supervisor. You understand what I'm saying? This is the kind of individuals that you speak to, that you look at in us today.
We're going to recognize you in a few minutes. We're going to let him ask a couple more questions, and then we'll take questions from the audience.
There's a book by a man named Eckhart Tolle. Somebody may have heard. It's called The Power of Now. In his book, he says a victim is a person that believes that the past is greater than the present. You know, so no matter what happens in life, I tell people, my mother, my sister, everybody, we all got stuff. Everybody goes through stuff. And I think about those people over in Syria when I see these little girls on gurneys with their legs blown off with no anesthesia. No anesthesia. And I'm like, man, that's gotta be awful. You know, so I'm like, okay, I got my legs, I got my eyes, I'm still in shape. Did 33 years, I learned, and, you know, I'm like, okay. So yeah, the present, the past is the past, but the present and now is what matters. So I'll take that. We take our pain and that stuff, and we use that energy to help somebody else. Because, like I said, if it can happen to us, if it can happen to me, it can happen to anybody. I mean, most of us, we were good kids. You know, you put my mother, my sister, the superintendent of the prison, he'll tell you, wish you were my captain, my major, Mr. David, to run this place. You know, things like that. So yeah, we're not bitter. You can't get on. We can't move on. We can't be here if you're bitter, because you have to have a good attitude to get out. Because things don't go your way in there. People, guards, inmates, people were bumping into me on the way out the door, trying to make me to keep me there.
To keep you there.
You know, and I had to turn my head. I mean, it was just unbelievable. I had more problems on my way out than before. So
that is so true. Because
Go ahead. If you had a point to do.
yeah, because that is so true. People were trying to prevent me from coming home too. And you know, I didn't even want people to know, when I went to go see the parole board, they have us on a call-out sheet, and I hated that. And the call-out sheet is where everybody's going that day in their time. When I saw my name on there, it was like I went to the bathroom like 3 o'clock in the morning, because I lived in a trailer, and the bathroom was, you had to walk out your cube to go. I saw my name on that, I scratched it out, because I did not want people to know that I was seeing the parole board. They knew I had went to court. They knew something happened, but I did not let them know. And even though they knew something was going on, a few people tried me. I ignored it though. Because I was like, Paulette, you on your way out the door. You did 40 years. You are going to not let anyone or anything stop you from reaching out that gate. And I refused. But you know, even the guards, a couple of guards was trying to play me. You know, said, Lord, one lady says, oh yeah, you supposed to be going home? Yeah, but when you get to the gate, they're going to say, psych. I said, that wasn't funny.
Right.
That's not funny at all. I did 40 years. You think I want to play like that? I said, but you have a blessed day anyway. And I kept it moving. Every time I seen her, I smiled and said, how you doing? Because I didn't know what she was up to. You know, I ain't want to give her no attitude or nothing like that, which I did. And I was like, I can't believe she said this. But yeah, that is true. And it's your state of mind, you know what I mean? And your heart changed, your mind changed, you mature, you feel, you know what you did, but you have feeling now, you know, where you didn't care. I care now, you know, and I don't never want nobody to have to deal with what I dealt with, so I don't have bitterness, you know.
What role did family support that you developed with some of the people that I'm sure is considered family, having spent so much time together? What role did that play in helping you maintain a sense of balance?
Well, I was blessed to have a whole lot of sisters and brothers. You know, I lost my mother. I lost my father in 90, lost my mother in 90. I lost my mother in 95. Moms is backbones. I love mothers, so, you know, cut and dry. I love a mother. And I don't like nobody talking about a mother. But my mother and father played a hell of a role in my life. My brothers and sisters, even through, to keep it honest with you, the crack era and everything, they ups and downs, they had my back. I have a nephew that was a Marathi, so we was fortunate to have family. But as I share this with you, I'm going to be sincere. I have another family that's super, and that's my prison family. My prison family was a stronghold for me for many years. You know what I mean? We didn't cry about they babies because I'm fortunate to not have no kids yet. I'm looking to go half on a baby. But, you know, we talked about their kids. We talked about their lives. And we also talked about their families. And we can speak about the guards as well. We done made some guards better human beings. So family played a hell of a role in this life that we share with you right now. In a big way. And I share with you now, blood is thicker than mud. You can be angry at your family, kick that under the rug. Because if not, that's an ugly feeling to have in the world, period. So my family, I did 36 years. And if I didn't share it with you, you wouldn't know it. So I'm still standing, and I love my family in a free world, and I also love my family that I left behind.
Yes.
We have some closing questions, but we'll open it up to the audience. We'll save those couple closing questions for the end. Go ahead, ma'am, in the back.
Hi, my name is Mandy, and I'd just like to ask Ken, first of all, congratulations for your freedom. Long overdue, it sounds like to me, but when you got out of prison, what kind of support did you find in the community as far as living, jobs, whatever? What kind of organizations? Is there anyone that you can speak out that you can say really made a difference that helped you transition back into the world?
Well, I can say this. Now, first and foremost, my family, now I'll put it like this, it was God, okay? First and foremost, it's God, okay? And my state of mind was when I got out here, I wanted to be more self-efficient. Now, my family was there, offered me their home to live in, all that. My church family, they was there for me as well. But, I mean, I hung out with them for a little while. I got involved with the BCC, which is a program, it's called the Bureau of Correction Center. And what they do is that they will pay 6 months of your rent as long as you're working. So I got involved with, it was called Uplift Solution. And it's a training program for you to work in ShopRite. That's where I work at today. So once I got that job, I got involved. I got in contact with the BCC, and I got my own little room that I rent out. So I'm saving up now, so when I leave that room, I have an apartment. You know, and then I have the Human Rights Coalition. They was there for me. I have Sisters Returning Home, which is in Germantown. They will help you with job interviews. They have computers. They'll take you on interviews, whatever you want. They'll help you with, cosmetics, clothing, whatever you have that you don't have that they can help you with. They are there to do that. And I was advised to go to them. And I went to them, and I've been with them ever since. They've been in my corner ever since. And anytime they call me to do something for me, I don't care if it's to go down the corner and mail a letter, I'm going to do it.
Amen.
Yeah.
Amen. No, that's right.
Yeah. I'm originally, like I said, from Philadelphia, but I didn't go back to Philadelphia. My mother wanted me to come home and stay with her. I just felt like at 50 years old, knowing my mother, I don't feel like one. You know, I love you, Mom. I'm going to do this on my own. So, but when I say on my own, she was still there. They were all supportive. So I just had the idea. I said, you know what? I'm going to Harrisburg. So I'm from Harrisburg. So I went to Harrisburg. I did some reconnaissance. I checked everything out while I was in prison, talked to some people. I went to a halfway house. At this halfway house, they don't charge you for anything. You just stay there. So long story short, I got to the halfway house. I was there a week. Well, when I got there that day, they gave me an access card. I'm a kind of guy, I want to work. I don't want to depend on the state. I don't want the government giving me anything. But everyone convinced me, said, you just got out, take it. It's a couple $100, take it for food. Anyway, within a week, I found a job. I worked 7 at night to 3 in the morning. So I can speak about Harrisburg, and I can honestly say, I tell my sweetheart all the time, I don't see how a guy coming out cannot make it. at least in Harrisburg, because there's jobs everywhere. They'll give you jobs. Pennsylvania Career Link. There's another program, 6-month rent.
Yeah.
So while working from 7 at night to 3 in the morning, taking things off a pallet, off a conveyor belt, putting it on a pallet for $10 an hour, I just saved a check every week. 2 weeks later, I go find me a nice apartment around the corner from the capital of Pennsylvania. Nice apartment in a beautiful neighborhood, $625 a month. But that's why I said that reform and things like this all about your attitude. Because there were people who turned me down for jobs. Now, I turn job, I can't do it. I can't do this, I can't do that. So there's a lot of help, just like she said, if you want it. It's hard, but it's I feel like everybody else goes through that in society. So, okay, I'm coming out, it's okay. Put myself out there and do the best I can. And so it's not hard. For me, it's not hard.
That's right. You gotta want it.
Want me to say something on that?
Yeah.
Well, out of Philadelphia, it's more harder for a man because when we was on our way out of prison, they said they had this for us. They said they had that for us. They said they was going to take care of this for us. All lies. All lies. But like I say, I'm here representing the juvenile lifers, and we doing well. All of us ain't got jobs. Like right now, I work for CEO, Center of Career Opportunity, you know what I mean? And it's coming along, they give you $62 a day. Next week, I'm supposed to go do a job interview for team cleaning. They clean schools and stuff. So next week, this time, I might have a job, if it's God's will, you know what I mean?
Amen.
I'm not struggling. I live with my brother, and I'm fine, you know? Like you asked me, nobody don't owe me nothing. I got people up here, Etta and him and other people, they got our back for real. You know what I mean? In order to get it, we got to want it. And you see 3 people right here. Troy, I should have went to Harrisburg.
I told you.
But it's so easy for individuals that know the importance of being free. They know the importance of the small things. You understand? So in time, if it's God's will, we all gonna be fine.
Absolutely, we are. We're fine because we made it out.
No doubt.
That's the first step. We made it through. You know.
Yes. Other questions from the audience?
Young lady in the back.
Hi, my name's Brittany. This question would mostly be for Vincent, I guess. You said that you were illiterate when you got sentenced. I do a lot of work in Pittsburgh with the kids who are getting suspended, which in Pittsburgh happens a lot to kids who are Black and in our more low-income areas. And I was just wondering if you could speak a little bit, so maybe I would have some more personal elements the next time I'm talking to the school board members about how your treatment in school or anything that happened to you in school you feel maybe affected your life's trajectory.
Wow, that's heavy because one of the things that I really want to do as an individual is go on a school tour, you know, for reasons such as that. You know, I don't want to be no one that give this to you. I want to be one that show it to you. You know, face value. When I said sitting there that I couldn't spell it or that wasn't no lie. You know, and it's happening in our society today. So when you speak about the work that you do, it's awesome if you find a convict that struggled. It's awesome that you put somebody in your classroom just to be a listener sometime. Don't let nobody know who I am if I'm sitting in your room. But when I walk up there and say what I got to say, I just want somebody to lend me their ear. You know, because the truth is, out of 15 or 16 students that you have in the classroom, reality, after 3, one of them is going to the penitentiary, male or female. That's right. You know, so these conversations that you want an answer to, it's hard to give you if you don't see a face for it. You know what I mean? Because a lot of the stuff that people get, they read from these books. We're experiencing it, you know what I mean? And this is no lie. This is no joke. So I say to you, you're from the Pittsburgh area. There's some dudes out there struggling. $60 a day would be some nice change. Just probably pull one from the street and say, look here, man, I need you for a minute. Look here, baby girl, I need you for a minute. You know, but don't tell them people who they is. And just sit them in your classroom and let them be a fly on the wall. And the conversation that most individuals that have done time will give them students will be something that'll shake them up.
Yeah, for sure. Was there? I thought I saw another. Can you see? I
just wanna
can't
make
see.
a comment about that. And I'll get to you in just 1 second now. I just want to make a comment. What we're talking about, if you can't reach the children, you can't teach them.
That's
And
right.
to have access to the children, one of the things that you need is credibility. And when they see a person that can call them in their shoes, because what's happening is children have secret lives. They have the life that they create among themselves because they are separate and apart from us. And then they have the relationship, how we're connected. And I want you to think with me so I can play roles for you. But when I get back to where I'm at, I can't play these guys. And they check me. And in order for me to hold my own, like he said when he was talking about going into the shower, at that point, the rubber hits the road. And I got to stand for what I stand for. And that's what you want to bring to the children in the classroom, that authenticity. So that when a person speaks to them, when they decide to smoke a little weed, when they run with dudes that are maybe selling drugs, when they seek and peer acceptance, when all these things are going on, you need a person that can recognize that and call them on that behavior and hold them accountable for their own decisions.
That's right.
Because it's at that point that they surrender self-mastery to circumstance. And so now they're going along with the go-along. He wanted out the car. One of the things I found talking to a lot of the children participating in gang activity was that if there would have been just one person among their peers that said to them, "Man, this is great.
That's right.
Man, ain't no, you thinking about that, man, ain't no," and said no. The same way that it was initiated by the guy said to him,
That's right.
"Let's go get some money." The same way they all fell in that mold, they all fell out of that mold.
right.
If another strong personality had said to them, "That's crazy," and
Amen.
none of us should be doing that.
Yes.
And it would have been killed right there in the pub.
Yes.
So you need that kind of authenticity to be
Take your time.
departed to the children, and he can't fake it. He can't come in there and talk glib like he's a rapper who's really a middle class boy making plenty of money, and he's faking the street life, and the kids don't know the difference. They know that difference, and that's the authenticity that you want to bring to your room. And there's a lot of places that you can get that.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. You want to
I
say?
have two questions. Why are the laws here in Pennsylvania so extreme, like in say Florida or whatever? If you kill somebody, you get 6 to 10 years, but here you get life. Okay, and then when a person here in Pennsylvania is so sick that you're going to die anyway, there's no means to get them back home to their family to die. They keep them in the jail to die.
Did everyone
That's
hear?
extra money. I mean, it don't make sense.
Did everyone here hear the question? It was a two-part question. To your first question, crime is the injury that we do to each other. Punishment is political. So in the event that you're not participating in the electoral process, so that you're putting people in place that make the kind of decisions that say, if you commit a homicide, we're going to grade it this way, and these are going to be the penalties. And in Pennsylvania, we are behind the scene. I mean, we are behind the times in dealing with that. We're not very progressive. So therefore, our legislators in the main hold the fort and will not allow us to penetrate that. And that's why we done had lifer bills going back to like 1973, where people was trying to get parole eligibility, and it's been shot down for that period of time to today. It's about 4 bills now that we're trying to have given consideration. To your second question about what we call compassionate release. In Pennsylvania, there is currently a statute that allows people who are terminally ill to be released on compassionate release. But the problem is the criteria is so stringent that they let you out in the morning, they expect you to be dead that night.
They do.
You understand what I'm saying? So that's the reason why it's hard. But again, now, what does that turn on? That turns on your participation in the electoral process. Those people work for us. And they get in there and it becomes a hustle. And they have most of them, I don't want to badmouth them all, but most of them have no basic scruples. And so if we say, kill them all tomorrow, then they line right up with the machine guns and kill them all tomorrow. And if somebody say, no, don't kill them all tomorrow, let most of them out, they come right up there and let most of them out. But if we're not participating, then we're not having an impact on how the policy is being drafted and what laws are being implemented.
Questions? Other questions? Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I just I wondered if any of you could speak to the overuse of mental health meds in the prison.
Really?
Paulette spoke about somebody just not being able to talk because of their tongue wagging. It seems like an incarceration within an incarceration, and people are in prison within their own minds.
It's really, I'm telling you, it behooves me to see people that I know for sure how they gave medication to people that wasn't even the medication they were supposed to take. Or they'll tell them, the dose is too low. We gotta up your doses, you know. And then they kind of like use them for guinea pigs and all that. That's one thing. And I always used to say, why are you taking all that medication? They're not putting a gun to your head to do that, you know. And don't come so addicted to taking that medication, because then it becomes they become addicted to it. They gotta have it. They go through withdrawal. It's horrible. I seen some of them people go through withdrawal, and it was awful. I mean, awful. And you know, that's what they do. They medicate them down, go in your cell, shut up, be quiet, go to sleep, get up, get your medicine, and go back to sleep. You know, and it's just sad how they do people with that medication. It really is. And they do, they play mind games with the medication with the people in there. And I've seen it done. You know, I've seen people almost die off of medication because they might have took a medication that they was allergic to. And because they never even, you know, find out the diagnosis if they were allergic to something, they just want to use them as a guinea pig, you know, and they throat swells all up. They can't swallow, you know what I mean? But, yeah, they need to do something about that.
The design came from the government. President Obama gave $500 billion up for the mental health crisis that was going on in America. So everybody wanted a piece of that pie. And the prison system took a piece of that pie. Every prisoners that you see out there got decodes now. That's the known name of it. And I seen men strong like us fall short. Now they playing with their fingers and they sliding. And when she spoke about the medication, I was borderline diabetic. I had high blood pressure. I had that other thing and that other thing, and I had a thing of pills like this, and I wasn't taking near one of them. So every 6 months when I got down there and they looked at me, "Oh, Mr. Boyd, you doing well?" I was like, "Thank you." You know what I mean? You know, still going to pick them up every 30 days. "Mr. Boyd, you doing well?" "Thank you."
That's right.
But I wasn't taking these pills. So you know, you giving me something that wasn't right.
Exactly.
You know, and here I am talking to you today. I might be borderline diabetic. I just started the gym the other day, so I'm gonna work myself. And lady told me don't take no medications. See her in 6 months, but I'm just telling you, penitentiary. I had medicine like this. I'm talking about from head to head until I came home. You know, and I wasn't taking their bit of it. And I'm here standing here talking to you in front of you. So.
Yeah. Can I say one more thing about the medication too? That all medications have side effects. We know that. Some people don't know the side effects and they don't inquire about it. You can even go on the computer and find out. It can mess with your vision, your liver, you know, it can mess with your heart, your blood pressure, all that. And a lot of people do not know that, you know, and they don't even inquire about it. And it's sad, you know, and they just keep on plugging it in them. It's just crazy.
I'll recognize you in 1 second. But I just want to segue with one point, and that is the other side of the coin is the despair and the pain. And that people who don't have hope, they either self-medicate when they can, or they just want to be numb. And so what they do is they surrender that part of their personal integrity, physical and emotional integrity, for being numb. I think I want to recognize you, man.
And I agree with sis here because it's like, it's not only in the prison system, it's also in our schools.
Yeah.
It's also, you know, the school pipeline, the prison pipeline, our children in the morning. This is what I noticed in our community. Our children, they get up, they go to they'll get $1 off their mom or something. They'll go to the store, they'll get these flaming hot chips, and they'll get a juice. So once they go to school, they're off the Richter scale. They're everywhere, you know what I mean? And there's these teachers coming in from the suburbs, these white teachers that cannot understand what the heck is going on. So they're saying, hold up, let's send them to the social worker. Because then the social worker can send them to call their parents and tell them, like, listen, we're having all kind of problems with your children, your child. You might need to put them on some medication. It's ADHD, okay? So that gives them permission to get them on this medication. And then this medication, it's a business. It's a business. That pharmaceutical is a business. And all of y'all in here know that all natural stuff that's been going on for years, that our ancestors, plants, all that is what saved us and cured us.
Yeah, for sure.
Now it's the medicine. And that's why they want us to think that we need these medications, and it's not true. And that's what we need to be teaching our babies, that it's all natural stuff. It's this gardening, it's teaching them how to garden, it's teaching them how to eat right, it's everything like that, you know. And once they talk out of the school, out of the homes, that parents cannot chastise their child, that's it. That was it. But it's okay for them police to come into our community and beat us down.
Or kill them.
You hear me? It's okay for them to do that, but if we put our hands on our children, we got to go to jail. It's a problem. The system is messed up.
True.
There was a person who was one big island.
I'm 30. Just want to make it quick. Speaking of voting people into power, there are 2 local women, Summer Lee and Sarah Innamorato, who are progressive, intersectional feminists running for state representatives. So please remember those names. Sarah is 21st district and Summer Lee is 34th. So please check them out. They are people you want to vote into power.
I wanted to segue with what Yusef said about the some of the reasons people take medication. All of you talked about having strong family support, but are there people in their lifers especially who are doing it without any support from outside?
It is, and that's what they resort to. Some of them do resort to that, you know, because they don't have anything else to hold them together, so they just go ahead and take medication. But not a lot, but there's some.
Can you talk about if somebody is incarcerated and they don't have anybody from outside sending them any money? What's the opportunity to make money in prison? What's the opportunity to buy things for yourself if you don't have anybody sending you money from the outside?
It's uglier these days.
Yeah.
I say it's uglier these days because it was a time, even though the money was always light, but everybody had a job. Nowadays, these penitentiaries, you don't have no job. There's so many men that don't have no jobs. And now, when we just left, they started more so giving you certain amounts of food now. You know what I mean? A little of this, a little of this, a little of that. And to be honest with you, I'm glad you came to this topic. To be honest with you, please have your ears open, because this prison system thing is going to get ugly. It's going to get ugly in a situation that it shouldn't be. You know, uglier, you're correct. Because, and I'm speaking about deaths in prison by individuals, not because they want to. You know, they talking about closing one of the biggest prisons down in Pennsylvania, Greater Ford, to open another one with double bunks. So you talking about putting men in cells with other men that never lived with a man in over 30, some 40, some 50 years. So to adapt to that is not going to exist. I hate to be the one to say this, but it's going to be bloodshed in these prisons. You know, and the food situation, as you say, somebody taking care is the worst. So if you're a weak individual, like he was speaking about earlier, when he got punched in his face for his spaghetti and meatballs, it's going to get uglier than that. You know what I mean? They already taking people commissary and stuff like that.
Mhm.
There
Yeah.
is no money there for you. There's no real education if you don't educate yourself. So that prison system thing that we talking about, the rehabilitation of old don't exist if you don't put it in yourself, if it don't come from self-motivation.
It's worse now than it's ever been. I was at SCI Forest, and I think SCI Forest is like number 16 on the list for the most dangerous prison in the country. I think it's Forest and Housedale. And I can tell you, we all can tell you stories, but like, speaking of that, like when we came in, everybody had a job. I remember I was here in Pittsburgh, and I was incarcerated over at Western. They call the Wall here in Pittsburgh. I've never been in, that's the closest I've been in Pittsburgh to today. So, but I remember when you went in there, even in the 90s, you got a job. Whether it was just sweeping a chair, they gave you a job so you can go to commissary, you get potato chips, cookies, cigarettes, cable, cosmetics to wash. This is the reality right now. There's no jobs in there, so if you don't get a job in the kitchen, then there's only so many people you can put in the kitchen. So right now you have the Crips, you have the Bloods, you have the 215 out of Philly, you have the Latin Kings, you have the Nietes, you got and I'm talking about they're organized. Like these young guys, 23, 24 years old, they organize. They put hits out. You sit in the kitchen, people walk up with a razor blade on a toothbrush because you look that long. I couldn't wait to get out. That didn't happen when I was in there. I was like, these guys are crazy. But there's no jobs. There's nothing for them to do but sit around, be angry. So what happens is...
Excuse me. Complete that sentence and that thought. We need to start wrapping it up.
Okay.
About 5 or 6 minutes.
Sure. What happens is you'll get 5 or 6 guys that will stand outside the cell and run in your cell, take your TV and your food. No matter who, whether it's me, they don't care if I get 30 years. Oh, here, we'll get you too. And then, so that's what's happening here as far as the...
This is a quick question, a follow-up, and they seem very naive. What happened to the jobs? Are they paying people to do it now?
They don't exist no more. They took them all out of the prison. Only jobs you really got in prison right now is a plumbing crew, and that's small.
Paint crew.
Work in the kitchen.
Laundry, kitchen, and law library.
Well, the short of it is that prisons used to be self-sustaining entities.
Right.
Okay.
And so what they did was they took the money that come in from taxpayers and farmed it out to communities. By the communities would let them put prisoners in their area, and they would contract it, buy all the services and goods that the prison needed that they
Used to grow.
used to do for themselves.
Right.
So residents from the community are doing the job?
Not doing the job, but getting the money for the same services and the same goods.
Big companies.
We need to wrap up.
Well, no, I just wanted to say, like, a lot of our friends at Cambridge Springs work as peer supporters, and they're basically like social workers, leading alcohol and drug rehabilitation groups, doing all kinds of stuff, and they get paid like 40 cents an hour for doing jobs that people get paid like middle class, $45,000 a year jobs.
And Yusef, how much more time do we have?
We have 4 minutes.
So can we just take that one last question from the audience?
Yeah.
So I just want to, my son is serving a life sentence and death by incarceration. And one of the things, I think that these prisons are trying to create riots just so they can be justified in keeping people in there.
Yeah,
because
of
they're
course.
taking my son who has never been a day, he never went to he went to the hole once because somebody swung at him. He didn't hit back, he didn't do nothing. Somebody swung at him, they sent him to the hole for 3 weeks, and then he got his job back and everything. But right now he's at top pay. He was an electrician for 8 years. They took him out of that job. He's been in masonry for about 5 years now, and they want to remove him from the job, not only take his job, but cut his pay at 42 cents an hour back to 24 cents an hour.
I hate to be abrupt,
crazy.
but we want to see if we can't get some closing statement. Everybody has nothing to do with make a closing statement. But my thinking is, how do we change this? What steps can we do? And what kind of participation can you bring to the table? I want you to think about that individually, but I'm asking any one of you to stand up and clarify how going forward we can impact this situation and change it.
Well, basically, I'm going to be brief with it. You got 2 men and a lady here. This man got some cards in his pocket called Boys to Men. Make sure y'all get them so y'all can get some out of that. I come out of the Philadelphia area, like I say, me and her, we represent the juvenile life. We moving. We need y'all footsteps. You know what I mean? Etta right here. My name's Sharif. Call me. I'm game to talk. Get me here, and I'll let y'all know what's going on, and I can contact either one of them. But we got to get with our legislators. When you hear about us going to Harrisburg, come on up there, because numbers speak volumes. And one thing I tell you, I love mothers and I love women. You know why? Because y'all been doing it for so many years, but y'all need some men behind y'all now. So they can look out that window and say, "Ho, this life issue is real now." You know, so these are the things that we got to do. I'm game. I know these two individuals are game, and I got a team that I can bring up here with me. You just get us here. We fighters. That's how I want to share.
I just want to close.
I just want to just go ahead.
I just want to close with this. When we talk about legislative action, that needs to be generated locally. So the message, the truth that these people are speaking, that I've spoken, you need to raise that wherever you are, whatever venues you frequent, at your dinner table, at your churches, in your social clubs.
Before we thank our panelists, we are on CADB. Everything that's on that table is going back over to the resource room on the 3rd floor. There's ways to get involved, petitions to sign over there, cards to call your legislators. So please come over to the chapel, 3rd floor of the resource room, to find out more information, because we have to, obviously vacate this room in just a moment. And again, I want to extend the invitation for folks to come tomorrow, 12:30 to 2:30 at the Thelma Lovett Y in the Hill District on Center Avenue to continue the conversation with these individuals, to ask the questions that you didn't get to ask today. So please, let's thank them for being here.
Also, can all the CADB members who are in the audience come to the front for a group photo?
A group photo. A group photo.
Thank you guys. Did it feel fast?
I'm so happy for you. I'm so happy for you.
Yes, you don't give up on this.
I will never.
Every time they hit you with the Harrisburg,
I've been there.
Anybody you can talk to.
He has one last step to his
Do your best to stay out of trouble, because if not, you will miss a whole lot of this here. This is free, this is awesome, and everybody needs to appreciate it. If you're from the city of Pittsburgh, learn your history. Don't learn it when you go to prison. Learn it while you're here now. And you'd be surprised at what you might get out of it. I'm here with Paulette. She enjoying herself. She taking pictures.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
it's amazing. I'm loving it. I'm blessed.
That's right.
I spoke all this into existence, and if I can share it, you can share it too. You just gotta want it.
That's right. In order to get it, you gotta want it. That's with education and everything.
Yes.
In order to get it, you got to want it, and just understand.
And speak it into existence.
That's right. The world is beautiful. Freedom is real. You got to want to keep it.
Yes.
You got that?